Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. In today's video is about a fully responsive URL shortener that shortens every link, and it was built with HTML, CSS and JavaScript. If you're happy and interested to see this build, help me out by subscribing to the channel and also like the video as well. You can also share as well. With that said, let's jump right in. So I only have the image folder in the VS Code that contains the SVG of the project. Let's start by creating our index.html file, our star.css file, and finally our main.js file. So within the index.html file, let's have everything set up by typing the exclamation mark to generate the boilerplate code. So in here we need to change the title to URL shortener. So within the body, we'll be having a header tag. Below the header tag, there will be a main tag, and finally the footer tag. So within the header, we'll be having a div with a class of left. Within that div, there will be an image tag with a source attribute from the image folder and its name as logo.svg, and also an alternative value of logo. Below the image is an unordered list with a class of nav menu. Within the unordered list, we have a list item with a class of nav item. Within the list item is an anchor tag, and it's going to have a class of nav link and also a test of features, and also an href attribute of hash. Okay, so let's copy it 3 more times, and we only need to change the test in there. So below the div, we'll be having another div with a class of write, and it will be containing the login and the sign up. That will be on the right side of the navbar. Okay, let's proceed to check it out, what we have so far. There we go. So below the div, we'll be creating our own custom hamburger menu. So we have a div with a class of hamburger. Within that div, we have 3 spans that have a class of bar. Let's move on with the styling. Before we do that, we need to link our styles, and also let's proceed to link our JavaScript as well. There we go. So within the style.css, let's target everything by setting the margin to 0, padding to 0, and also give it a box sizing of border box. So I have my variable of colors in here that I'll be using. So let's target the body. Let's set the font size to 18 pixels, and also let's give it a font family of Poppins and a fallback of sans serif. Let's give it a margin inline of auto. Let's target the header and display flex. Align items to be at the center, and also justify content to be spaced around. Let's give it a margin of 1.2 rem, and also let's give it a margin bottom of 3 rem. Let's take div with a class of left. Let's display flex. Let's take the div with a class of left and move to the unordered list. Within that, we will display flex, so everything will be aligned in a row. Align items at the center, justify content to be at the center, and give it a list style of none. Let's take the anchor tag and give it a text decoration of none. padding of 0.2 rem, that's from top and down, and 1 rem from left and right. Let's set the color to be that grayish violet. The variable I just set in here. Let's give it a cursor of pointer. Let's wrap the list item within the unordered list. Okay. Let's take the div with the class of right. Give it a margin left of 0.5 rem. Let's take the unordered list, display flex, and also align items at the center. Give it a list style of none. There we go. Let's take the anchor tag, give it a text decoration of none, give it a padding of 0.2 rem and 1 rem, set that color and give it a cursor of pointer. Let's add an active class to the sign up button so you can give it some styles to it. So let's set the background color to cyan, and also let's give it a color of white and give it a padding of 0.2 rem, that's from 0.4 rem rather, from top and down, and 1.2 rem left and right. Let's give it a border radius of 1 rem. There you go. Let's take the div with the class of hamburger and give it a display of none on the larger screen. So let's start our bar, the span of the class of bar. So with the bar we display blocked and give it a width of 1.5 rem, a height of 0.2 rem, and a margin of 0.3 rem from top and down, and also from left and right. Give it a transition of all 0.3 seconds. That's going to be easing out. Let's set the background color to black. Let's display block. Yeah, it's showing. Let's set it to none. There you go. Let's move on to our main tag. Within the main tag, we'll be having a session, and within the session is a div with a class of content. Below that div is another div with a class of image. So within the div with a class of content is an h1 tag with a text, and below that h1 is a paragraph with some text too. Below the paragraph is a button with a class of btn and a text of get started. So within the div with a class of image is an image tag with a source attribute from the image folder with the name illustrationworking.svg and also an auth value of image. Let's move on with the styling. So with the styling, let's target the session and give it a width of 100% and also display flex. Let's align items at the center and justify content to be at the center. Let's target the div with the class of content, give it a max width of 30 rem. And also let's target the h1 tag, give it a font size of 3 rem and also a margin of 0.5 rem. There we go. Let's target a paragraph, give it a color of that grayish color. And also let's give it a margin of 0.5 rem. So with the class of button, let's give it a background of cyan, and also let's give it some padding of 0.5 rem, that's top and down, and 1 rem left and right. Let's give it a margin of 0.5 rem and also a cursor of pointer. Let's give it an outline of none, a border of none, and the color of white. There we go. And also let's give it some font size of 1.2 rem and a border radius of 1.2 rem as well. There we go. Let's target the image and give it a width of 85%. So below the session is another session that's going to have a class of link input. Within that, you'll be having a form, and the form is going to have a class of input container. Within the form is an input tag. The input is going to have a type of text and also a placeholder of shorten a link here. It's going to be required as well. Below the input is a button with a class of input button, input btn, and it's going to be of type submit, and it's going to take the test of shorten it. There you go. So let's proceed with the silence. So we take the input and give it a padding of 0.6 rem and 0.5 rem. Let's give it a border radius of 0.2 rem and a font size of 1.2 rem. Let's give it an outline of none, a border of none, and let's set the margin to 0.5 rem and give it a flex of 1. There we go. Let's take the input container. Let's give it a margin top of 1.5 rem, display flex, and align item center. Justify content to be at the center and give it a background of that dark violet color. Let's set the padding to 1 rem and 1.5 rem from left and right. Let's give it a position of relative. Let's set a width to that, and also let's give it a border radius of 0.3 rem. Let's give it an overflow of heading. There you go. It's looking much better. Let's take the input button and set the padding to 0.5 rem, border radius of 0.2 rem, and give it a color of white. We're going to set the font size to 1 rem and also set align the text to be at the center and give it a background of cyan. We're going to have a cursor of pointer as well, and also an outline of none and a border of none. There you go. Below the session is another session with a class of services. Within that session is a div with a class of service content. Within that div is an H2 with a test of advanced statistics. Below that we have a paragraph with some text. Below the div is another div with a class of cards. Within that we have another div with a class of card and card1. Within that div is an H3 tag or a test of brand recognition. Below the H3 is a paragraph with some text. Below that div we'll be having another div with a class of card, and this is going to name as card2. We'll be having an H3 tag as well with a text and also a paragraph as well. We will repeat that for the third card, and it's going to be the same format. There we go, with the same paragraph text. So let's save the changes in here and check it out. Okay. So with the styling, let's target the services and give it a margin top of 5 rem, and also give it a text align to be at the center, display flex, and give it a flex direction of column. Let's target the service content and give it a max width of 30 rem, and also let's take the paragraph and set a color to that grayish violet color. There we go. Let's take the cars and give it a margin top of 2.5 rem and display flex. Align items at the center and justify content to be spaced around. Let's give it a width of 100%. There you go. It's looking much better. Let's target the paragraph and give it a color. The color is going to be RGB. Let's target the card again and give it a margin of 2 rem, a mask width of 20 rem. There we go. Let's target the card one and give it a background of this color. And also let's give some padding to it. It's going to be 1 rem from top and down and 0.2 rem left and right. Let's give it a border radius of 0.3 rem. There we go. Let's copy that and paste that for card 2. We're going to have the same styling and card 3 as well. There you go. So below the session, we'll be having another session. It's going to have a class of boost. Within that session, we're having an h2 tag with a text. Below that text is a button with a class of btn with a text of get started as well. There we go. So let's get started with the styling. So with the styling, we target the boost class and give it a margin top of 2 rem and text align to be the center and display flex as well. A flex direction of column to align them vertically and give it a background of the dark violet. Give some padding to it. That's going to be, and also position it relative. A gap of 2 rem and a color of white. There you go. So let's get started with the button. Let's start the button. So with the button, we target the btn, give some background, and that's going to be cyan. Give some padding to it, which is 0.5 rem from top and down, 1 rem. That's left and right. A cursor of pointer, and give it an outline of none, and also a border of none, and also give it a color of white with a font size of 1.2 rem and a border radius of 1.5 rem. There we go. It's looking much better. Wow. Okay. Let's move on to the footer tag. So we'll be having our SVG within the footer tag. There we go. Below the SVG, let's give the SVG a class of logo. Below the SVG is an unordered list with a list item, for list item, okay. So we give the unordered list a class of footer links, and also within the list item we'll be having some text within it. So let's copy that and paste this. So we'll be changing the text within it. Let's copy that one too and paste it and change the text within it. They are all going to have the same class within the unordered list. There we go. Beneath the unordered list is a div with a class of footer social that's going to contain our social media links. Below that we have an image tag and going to point towards the images folder with the Facebook SVG icon and give it a class of social links. Copy it 4 more times, change it in the name, the source of the image, and also the alternative of the image. So we'll be having our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest. There you go. So with the footer, let's display flex, align items to be at the center, and also justify content to be spaced between, and give it a background of that very dark blue. There we go. So let's take the footer length and give it a margin top of 2 rem. And also let's take the unordered list. Within that, the list item, let's set the color to gray violet, and also let's give it a margin of 0.2 rem and 0 left and right. Give it a list style of none. There we go. So let's take the unordered list with the first child and set the color to white and set the font weight to bold. Let's take the footer social and display flex, justify content to be spaced between, and also let's take the social links and give it a padding of 0.4 rem and 0.5 rem. Let's set the margin top to 2 rem. There we go. Let's take the logo and give it a margin top of 2 rem. The logo is not showing up. So let's check our SVG, the fill attribute. Let's set that to white. There we go, it's showing up. So let's start with the responsiveness. So on the mobile device, it's not looking that much. So let's start with the mobile device. So at media, and specify the breakpoint. So let's set the max width to 768 pixels. So we take the hamburger and display blocked, and also we take the bar, first bar, and apply some styling to it with the nth child of 1. That's the first bar within the span. You transform and translate on the y-axis 8 pixels. At the same time, rotate to 45 degrees. So you copy that and paste it 2 more times. So you take the second bar and set opacity to 0, and also take the third and translate on y to -8 pixels and rotate to -45 degrees. So we take the nav menu and position it to be fixed and give it a width of 100% and a left of 100%, and also set the top to 70 pixels and give it a flex direction of column, and give it align text at the center, and also give it a background of that dark violet. And let's set the transition to 0.5 seconds ease. So from there we take the nav menu and add an active class on it. So when it's active, we are going to set the left to 0, and also we take the nav item and apply the following stylings. So with the nav item, we set the margin to 1 rem and 0 from left and right. So let's add a list with the login and sign up to the day with the class of left, and add another class of SM, and that's going to show up only on the smaller screens. So on the larger screen, we set the display to none and set the display to block on the smaller screen. So we have the login and sign up being shown on the smaller screen. And also let's take the left and add an active class. So let's set the background to a cyan, some padding of 0.4 rem and 1.2 rem from left and right, and border radius of 1 rem. Let's set the color to white. There you go. Let's take the header and display flex. Just find content to be spaced between and give it a position of fixed. Give some z index of 1 and width of 90%. Let's take the content and set the margin top to 5 rem. Let's take the session and display flex and give it a flex direction of column and align items to be at the center, and also just find content to be at the center. Let's take the image and set the width to 100%. From there, we proceed to take the content with an h1 tag and set the font size to be 3 rem, and also give it a font weight of bold. So we take the input container and display flex and give it a flex direction of column and align items to be at the center, and also just find content to be at the center. And let's set the background color to that dark violet and give it a width of 90%. There we go. So let's take the input and give it a font size of 1 rem, padding of that, and also let's set the width to 90% as well. Let's take the input button and applying the following stylings to it. Font size of 1 rem, and also let's give it some padding of 0 and set the width to 90%. Let's take the cast and display flex, give it a flex direction of column. Let's take the card and give some margin of 0.5 rem, and also let's take the boost and set the background color to dark violet. So we finally take the footer and display flex and give it a flex direction of column, and also just find content to be at the center and align items to be at the center as well. So let's add functionality to the hamburger menu, and before we do that, we shouldn't forget to link our script tag. Let's start by creating a function that will select a DOM element, and I'm going to name that function as select element, which takes in a parameter of a selector. So within the function, I'll create a variable element, and that's going to select the DOM and pass in the selector as an argument. We are going to return the element only if it exists, otherwise we will throw an error, and that's pretty much what the function is about to do. So we create a variable form and select the element of the form. We will do same for the input variable. We move on to create a variable result to display the generated link, and select the element with a div with a class of result, of which I'm about to create. So let's bring in the hamburger menu and also the nav menu as well. So let's take the hamburger menu and add an event listener. And in this situation, we want to listen to a click. Whenever the hamburger menu is clicked, we want to run the following function. We want to take the hamburger menu and toggle it to a class of active. At the same time, we'll be taking the nav menu and set it to an active class. There we go. Now it's showing up. So let's take the form and add an event listener on it. So we want to check for submission of form and run the following function. First of all, we'll be preventing the page from refreshing. So we set the E to prevent default. So we create a URL and accept the input value and assign that value to the URL. We proceed by running a function that shortens the URL. So let's create the function, and it's going to be an asynchronous function that takes in the URL as a parameter. So within the function, we'll be having try and catch block. The try is going to be executed when you have a successful shortening of the link, and the catch block will handle the errors. So we create a response variable, and we need to fetch from the data. Since it's an asynchronous call, we need to await and fetch the data and pass in our URL. So we get the data back and transform the response into a JSON format. There we go. So in here we need to create a variable known as new URL and create a div in here and assign it to the new URL. So we take the variable new URL and add a class of item to it, and also we will set the inner HTML. So within that we set a paragraph, and that paragraph is going to display the link, the generated link. Below the paragraph you are going to have a button with a test of copy, and we are going to give the button a class of new btn, new URL button. There we go. So below that we take the results and prepend the new URL. So we create a variable and we're going to name it copy btn. We're going to select that class. So we take that variable and add an event listener. So we want to listen to a click. Whenever the button is clicked, we want to run the following function. So we want to add functionality to the copy, so we use navigator.clipboard.writeText. Then we take the copy btn.previous sibling, which is going to give us the paragraph, and we want the text in the paragraph, which is the text content. After that we set the input value to a null and log out the error within the catch method. I think that's pretty much it. So let's try it out and see whether it works. And also before you do that, I have applied some stylings to the results and also the new URL button here, so you can do that. There we go. So let's check it out, what we have so far. So I'll start with my GitHub link. So github.com/codedakwa. You can see our link have been shortened. Let's try and see whether it will lead to my, oh there we go, it has led to my GitHub. Let's try another one, twitter.com/codedakwa. Let's shorten it. There we go, we have our new link. Let's check it out. Ooh, everything works. If you find this to be useful and interesting, consider subscribing and also like and share the video as well. See you in our next tutorial. Until then, stay tuned.